Welcome to our regularly scheduled March Board of Education meeting, March 11th. I'd like to thank each of you for coming. We would like to start, first of all, ask you to rise for a moment of silence to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda, so I'll take a motion as such. So moved by Don.
Second.
Seconded by Sadie. Discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as presented signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. And our next business consent agenda. A motion for that. So moved by Don.
Second.
Seconded by Rodney. All those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I'd also like to remind you that we no longer read the closed session summaries or announcements. Those are online on our website, and we certainly encourage each of you to go to the website if you have any questions or concerns about things that we have done as a board that we do not discuss tonight. Recognitions. Our first recognition is our holiday card. We were going to do that a little earlier, but the holiday kept getting a little more snowy, so we finally got a good day. So our student artwork for the holiday card, Miss Abigail George and Miss Lillard will make that presentation.
The board will recognize Miss Abigail George, a Southern Garrett High School student whose artwork was selected for the 2024 Garrett County Public School holiday card. Abigail is a 9th grade student, and she designed a candle and a wreath centerpiece with a Merry Christmas message for this year's card. Each year, the Board of Education and Central Office staff vote on several submissions, and the top choice is selected. The cards are sent from the Garrett County Public School System and the Board of Education to all employees and each Maryland school superintendent and various county and state agencies in December. So congratulations, Abigail, and she's my neighbor, so it's kind of nice that I'm getting to give this to her.
Our next recognition will be the Unified Flag Football State Skills Champion, which this year came from Northern Garrett High School. And Mr. Trees will make that presentation.
The Northern Garrett High School Unified Flag Football Team made history by clinching the state title in the skills competition. This remarkable achievement showcases the team's dedication, teamwork, and exceptional talent. In the skills competition, there are 5 stations that award points based on performance in passing accuracy, passing distance, catching, running, and flag pulling. The flag football team is composed of unified athletes and partners, and the team has fostered an inclusive environment where players support each other on and off the field. Their hard work and determination have brought home the championship and inspired the entire community. Last season was the first for the Unified Flag Football in Maryland. Congratulations to the Northern High School Unified Flag Football team for their outstanding success and for promoting unity through sports.
too. Oh, here's his certificate. Derek's certificate.
Yeah.
And yeah, and those for the teachers. And then if they could take the rest for the ones that couldn't be here, that would be great.
Thank you, Garrett. You're fine. Take your time. It's not often we have state champion football teams in Garrett County. Our last recognition goes to Miss Cambria Kyle. This is a very special recognition. We are recognizing Cambria for quite an accomplishment and quite an honor. That is an appointment to the United States Military Academy, West Point. And that presentation will be made by Mr. Goffelty.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to provide the board recognition to Cambria. This is going to take a little bit because she's done a lot of things while at Northern High School. Ms. Cambria Kyle, a senior at Northern Garrett High School, has accepted an appointment to attend the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, with a report date of June 30th, 2025. So right after you graduate, right? Admission to the United States Military Academy at West Point is one of the most competitive and rigorous processes in the nation. West Point graduates earn their commission as officers in the U.S. Army and agree to serve on active duty for a period of 5 years. While in the Army, Cambria plans to become an aviation officer with the hopes of flying medevac missions in a Black Hawk helicopter as part of the Army Medical Corps. Cambria also plans to pursue an undergraduate degree in kinesology and a graduate degree in physical therapy. She is currently the president of the Garrett County Association of Student Councils, the president of Northern Garrett High School National Honor Society, the battalion commander of the Northern High School ROTC program, the Maryland Girls State Graduate and ambassador, the Maryland State Graduate Ambassador and 2024-25 Garrett County Autumn Glory Queen, and the 2024-25 Student Body Representative for the Northern Garrett High School Student Council. Cambria has been recognized for numerous awards during her tenure at NGHS, including the Maryland Young Women's Leaders Award, presented by the Governor and the First Lady of Maryland just last night. One accomplishment Cambria is most proud of is that she has improved herself physically over the past 4 years. From a tiny little freshman who could barely perform a single pull-up to the strong woman you see before you today, who can perform between 20 and 25 continuous and correct repetitions. The board would like to congratulate Cambria on her admission to the United States Military Academy at West Point and wish her much success in all her future endeavors. Congratulations, Cambria. Any of you guys want to say anything about Cambria?
Gosh, what could you say?
Impressive.
Yes, very impressive. Cambria, who made your appointment? Cambria, who was the senator, congressman, who made your appointment? Congressman
Trump.
Trent.
Trump.
Oh yeah, Trump. Okay, great. Super, super, super. Well, congratulations. Okay, let's move on to new business, which is science K through 5 and 9 through 12 instructional materials. This is made by Ms. Candy Most. And Ms. Warning.
Good evening. We bring to you tonight the science instructional materials for both elementary and high school. These materials went through the process with a teacher committee, which was formed last summer, in the summer of '24, and they previewed several companies, bringing it down to 2 final companies to look at, and then pilot. And with that, we have their recommendations for you tonight. Slide. Where's the? We need a new slide. It's right there. It's right there. So the elementary selection has been Discovery Education with the component of Mystery Science for grades K to 2 and the tech book for grades 3 to 5. You can see there that the projected cost for this is about $224,000. This is aligned to our state standards. It provides hands-on lessons. And the nice thing about the materials that they need are their common supplies for the most part that are found in the classroom. Things like index cards, paper clips, tin foil. And it includes extra components with on-demand training for our teachers and then some virtual field trips. We can't always afford to take students everywhere we would like to, so they offer that within the program. And it follows that 5E model with engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. And every lesson begins with a phenomena, something that will catch the kids' interest and then draw them into the lesson.
And so for high school science, we are looking at Savvis Learning Company. So we have experience chemistry and physics, and then the Miller and Levine biology textbook. The projected cost for 5 years is approximately $90,000. Again, you'll hear some of the very same language because we're both looking for the same components. We're looking for alignment to our standards. We were very focused on looking for curriculum materials that supported the phenomenon-based learning with the student inquiry 5E model, which is again represented in our high school textbooks. One other thing that our teachers were really wanting to look for was access to differentiated materials. So this company provides differentiated hands-on labs to support learners at different levels. We also have assessment tools for teachers to use to monitor student growth, and then print and digital teacher supports, including access to on-demand training.
Will those be used as well for the AP classes?
So this is strictly
Merit level?
merit and honors level courses.
So what about the AP classes?
Those AP textbooks are not a part of this adoption,
Not a part?
previously adopted.
Okay.
They go through they have to be aligned to the AP college.
Right.
So they don't.
Thank you. And then this final slide elevates some of the key components that we're looking for in our instructional materials. This is based on Maryland's High Quality Instructional Materials Initiative. So these are some of the main things that we elevated in the resources that we presented to teachers. We're really looking for real-world connections, that phenomenon-based learning, which is directly tied to our student engagement piece, and then how we're supporting educators with differentiation and providing scaffold support to students.
These samples through the digital access as well as samples of the hardback materials will be on display at Ruth Enloe in Oakland and Grantsville. and we will be returning for feedback from you all and really approval of the materials at your next meeting. Until then, the public will have access to the survey that Mr. Green will put up online with the online access, and then they can provide written feedback at those two locations. Any questions?
Perhaps you said it, maybe. Are these used anywhere else in Maryland?
Yes,
you know of.
Discovery Ed is.
And yes, Savvis Experience was just recently adopted in Prince George's County.
Okay, great. Super. Any questions, anyone? It's a first read and certainly open to the public for discussion, and we'll come back in April and take a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question. When will those be available to be reviewed?
Those we placed
the
in the
libraries.
libraries tomorrow.
Tomorrow? And how long will they be there?
That will be out through April 1st.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, you can do it online as well.
Thank you.
Policies and procedures, GBEE, acceptable and responsible use of technological resources for employees and the procedures that follow. Mr. Gank will make that presentation.
So, no action being requested at this time. I think we still have some things we're looking to have addressed. So at this time, informational purposes only, we have a document that's outlining expectations, best practices with regards to board member use of personal devices, technologies.
I know we're going to discuss this for a month or so. I think there were some questions that, hypotheticals that come up
Yes.
that we certainly want to make sure that we've discussed those with you and before we move forward on the form. Certainly, as we did discuss those things, it is a need that we have in this day and age.
I agree.
Everything is exposed somewhere. So it behooves all of us to know what's the best way to go about that. Does anybody have a particular question for Jeff? I'm sure we'll have some next month.
Absolutely.
Try to wrap this up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. JLCC, communicable diseases and related conditions of public health importance, policy, and procedure. If I can get all of that out. And Sakin.
I'll take it.
Mhm.
The person we thought would be here isn't here, so. These are first reads.
Well, we are. We're half hour early.
Like walking and being right on.
Well, anymore we seem to be. You're fine. You're fine.
Thank you.
We are doing the JLCC, communicable disease related conditions of public health importance policy, and the procedure that goes with it.
You'll notice that there is a name change to reflect the scope and purpose of the policy, better than helpful to environment.
Sorry, thank you. And it was formatted to adhere to the current templates we have for policies and procedures. The big change in the policy is there's a statement that expands the encompass of all the state and federal laws. That's about the only change in the policy. Okay, and the procedure reflects best practices from the updated Maryland Health Department Communicable Disease Summary. As a parent letter has been revised to be more user-friendly and expanded information, and the guidelines for practice are embedded into the policy. Those are the major changes.
And I think it would be important to remind everyone that these have been through our Committee for Policy and Procedure Review.
And we have two board members on that committee, Mr. Gladfeldy and Mr. Tresas.
Questions?
It is a first read. Certainly, we will look at this again next month. Any preliminary questions anyone has? It's kind of above my grade level. I can't understand most of it anyway. Okay, let's move on then. Let's go to JLCDEA, response policy and procedure. Also presented by Ms. Aiken.
Okay, it was again formatted to here to our current template for policies and procedures. Major policy change is naloxone storage in schools, and it's updated to reflect the new legislation for placement of naloxone next to AEDs. School personnel may administer overdose reversing medication in an emergency was added, and parent or guardian annual notification of the availability of these medications in schools. Those are the major changes to the policy. Okay, the procedure changes outlines naloxone placement, awareness and training for staff, administration, and post-event. Questions?
I think the only question that I had, and I answered it as I read through this, was when it's taken off-site
Mhm.
to the events and stuff. That's a great idea, because not everything happens in the school.
No, it doesn't.
So, yes.
Yeah, I had some of the same questions. I guess I don't recall when I was at Southern how we did this, because the defibrillators were just coming on site. I think my last couple of years I was there. How do we do that if there's an event at home and an event away? Let's say it's, a baseball game outside away, and I don't know, something at home in the gym. I know we keep ours if we're hosting.
Well, we have it all throughout the schools by each of the AEDs. It's, the trainer has, and the coaches can certainly have naloxone if they want.
So the coach would have the responsibility then as the traveling coach to
Yes.
take that, check that out.
Yes,
and have
because if it's with the AED, they'll take just a little packet that goes with it. That has gloves, the instructions, and has a face mask if they have to do CPR.
Yeah. And do we train everybody in the school?
Yes, we do. The
Yes.
nurses at the beginning of the year, they do a kind of a medical overview, and there's different layers of training. Somebody that might just be awareness to someone that might, like a coach or, that might have hands-on or maybe a vice principal that might be doing a after-school dance or something with families, so.
I think anybody can
Mhm.
pick it up and use it.
Yeah.
I mean, the training's just on top of,
To make people feel comfortable and realize what it's doing, and if it's not going to hurt somebody if that's not what's going on.
but the instructions are pretty complete with it on what to do.
We'd rather have lots of it and never use it than not have it when we need it.
And I think too, Tom, this supplements our hands-only CPR, and which everybody gets trained on. And so they get some background on probably when they're doing that training on defibrillator use too, right?
Have we ever used
Yes, we
that
have.
school site?
It was an after-school event.
After school? then?
Yes. One time, yeah. And we
Yeah.
do report to the state, and also in this procedure, you'll see we call poison control because they track the numbers and that kind of stuff for us.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, it was only one time, which
Yeah.
I guess speaks volumes about hopefully our kids are doing the right things.
Yeah, well, it could be someone that's coming to see a game, a football game, basketball game, or a sporting event that wouldn't necessarily have to be one of our kids.
Yeah,
We
right.
want to keep everybody safe that comes to
Sure.
on our school property.
Plus the saturation rate from the health department. The saturation rate for Garrett County is pretty high of getting naloxone into the hands of people. Personally, with my prevention background, I'd like to see the students taught about naloxone as well, for many reasons. They might be saving their parents' life, so.
Absolutely. And I'd like to thank our partners at the Health Department because that's where we do get our naloxone. That's a good
Sadie,
partnership.
you don't have to be certified to use it though, right? And you can buy it over the counter at drugstores. But
Yes, you can buy it over the counter, but we also give it out for free. So
so if you want to get it for free, you have to take the course.
it's a crash course if you call into the health department and come in and get it. But free is better than having to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know what it costs.
Plus, the health department also does drop-offs. They do different locations on the north end and the south end where they have Narcan pickups, where people can come and get it too and be trained at those events.
Any other questions about the opiate response policy and procedure? Okay, let's move on to the last one. JLCEB, automated external defibrillator policy and procedure.
Okay, this one may look a little different. It was, of course, formatted for our present policy and procedures, but it was for, it's a clearer policy and procedure because I think it was just kind of a procedure, marked policy, but now it's a policy and a procedure. The policy reflects the current laws, which have changed a lot since we first brought AEDs into the schools, ensures a countywide and facility AED program, develops a venue-specific emergency action plan for middle and high schools and available for Narcan near the AEDs. So those are the changes in the policy. The procedure outlines clear roles and responsibilities, locations of the emergency equipment, how it's checked and maintenance is done on it, training, venue-specific action plans, and reporting for post-use is outlined. So it's just a much clearer policy and procedure.
How many AEDs do we own?
26. We have AEDs and 6 in each high school. We have in the elementary schools, and if the buildings have to be divided at night, we have one on either side. So if you're using the gym or the cafeteria, you can get to it at AED. So like Friendsville would have one upstairs, one downstairs. So there's several. And that's why there's several. We don't have to by law have them in elementary schools, but we do. We even have one in the Gears buildings for our robotics kids. So we make sure we have equity for all of our students wherever they be.
What's one of those costs?
They're about $1,600. The prices come down quite a bit, and we do get a nice discount being a school
Do they get
system.
recertified or?
They eventually kind of go out of commission, and so after usually they're about 5-6 years, I have a refresh where I just keep changing them out and can trade them in when they get too old.
Questions?
So- The same question you had on naloxone, coaches need to take them with them when they go.
Yes, absolutely. That's why there's so many at each high school, because we have one in the high school, as you noticed, in the middle school, when you go around the corner, you can see they have everything right there together, first aid kit, the AD, EpiPen, Narcan. The coaches have their own, and they have, the trainer has one right outside the training area. So the coaches can come and sign one out anywhere in the high school, but that one by the gym never moves. So the kids know that way. If we would have an emergency, we know there's one always there. We don't have them all signed out. So no one ever signs that one out, but you could have all 5 signed out. I know the golf team might take one for the season to have on the golf course.
Good.
Anyone? Any other questions? Well, thank you. We will revisit these next month.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, let's go to, what time is it? 6:30. Let's move on to the makeup day action. We'll come back to public comment. Continuing business, school year 2024-25 calendar makeup day. This is an action item for tonight, and Dr. Wilson and Spring will make that presentation.
Well, good evening. We are recommending for the board to approve Thursday, June 12th, 2025 as a makeup day. We had this day scheduled to make up on February 17th, 2025, which was the original day of a makeup day. However, due to inclement weather, we were not able to do so. So to ensure compliance with instructional time, We propose that Thursday, June 12th, 2025, be made as a makeup day for that February 17th date.
Okay, is there a motion that we use Thursday, June the 12th, 2025 as a makeup day? So moved. So moved by Don. Do I hear a second? Second by Rodney. Can I have discussion? Any discussion about using that day?
Is it a half a day or a full day?
The last day for the students would be a 3-hour early out.
Early out.
Yes, that's,
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, there's a motion, a second to use Thursday, June 12th, 2025 as a makeup day. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? And that is a makeup day. Let me ask this question. Is anyone here to talk about the calendar before we vote? In public comment? Any public comments about the calendar? No? Okay. Wanted to make sure. I didn't want you to do your comment after we vote.
I have a comment about the survey for the calendar, but not about the calendar.
Okay, let's do then public comment first before we vote on the calendar. Okay.
You wanna do it now?
Let's do public
Okay,
comment.
sure, sure.
Yeah, can we get the list? Sorry. See. Okay, let me get my little spiel. I gotta read it first. Garrett County Board of Education is pleased to receive comments and ideas from our public pertaining to the policies, procedures, and/or practices of the school system. We ask that comments be limited to a maximum time of 3 minutes per individual, unless otherwise considered by the board president. There will be no discussion or action taken at this meeting, but may be considered at a future meeting. Issues that are specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisors for appropriate consideration and review. Rude slanders or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or interferes with the order of the meeting will not be permitted. Topics excluded from public comment include individual personnel issues, comments identifying an individual student or staff member, matters that are on appeal or may be appealed or have been appealed, topics for which the board schedules formal public hearings, and lastly, advertising and solicitation for products and/or services. So with that being said, our first person is Tara Crawford, the accident Northern Middle School changes.
I didn't have enough space on the line, and my handwriting is nearly illegible, but Mr. Woods, you always do a nice job, so thank you. So on the calendar, no comment on, the post-Labor Day, the decision to move things to a post-Labor Day potentially start. But something that we did notice on the survey, I'm not sure that it's made explicitly clear. Sorry, I'm saying survey. I mean, request for public comment whenever folks are sharing their thoughts on the calendar. I'm not sure that it was explicitly clear that names would be beside the comments. I think many people who completed the public comment were possibly under the impression that it was anonymous to at least to the rest of the public. And it is available on board docs, so you can see everybody's name beside everybody's thoughts. And I think that if that is the procedure, it needs to be inherently clear. Because I think there are some folks in the community tonight who are like, shoot, now everybody knows what I think. And if I wanted everyone to know what I think, I'd be sitting here. And yet, so that's my only thought on the calendar. Yep. And then regarding what I know was a very difficult decision to hold back or to make a change on the proposal for accident in Northern. I'm not even here necessarily to express gratitude, just to say, well, express gratitude for the decision, but to express gratitude for each of you to take the time to answer our questions, to explain things, and not just you all at the table, but also the staff at GCPS. particularly Mr. Witt. I had a long email sent in to Mr. Wesłowski, which I believe he received on his very last day. And Mr. Witt jumped in and was able to answer those questions. It naturally, in the transition, took a few days. But with everything that's being experienced right now, personnel changes, budgetary issues on a state level, the possibility of the dismantling of the Department of Education, please know that our community will continue to be partners in this, and that's how we see ourselves. That that we have worked hard, and you all have assisted us in understanding things that are tough to understand sometimes when you're reading them for the first time or you don't have a background in this. And Dr. Miller, you and I haven't interacted specifically on this, but this goes back years. And so we really do appreciate that. And we may not always agree. We may never agree, but we do want to continue to have respectful dialogue and be the partners that that you at least want to answer our emails. And you do. So that's all. I appreciate each of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we did read all 65 pages of those comments, which did take a while to do that. And there were some pretty neat names. I have no name, I think was one person's name. Another's name was no. But we will certainly make that very, very explicit. Lastly, Michael Henderson, Charter Schools. Thank you. I'll read this.
Okay, can you hear me?
Sure.
Can you hear? Okay, you can start the clock. The first sheet in November, there was fear that the charter school would be closed down for lack of funding. I challenged that at that time with some numbers I gave. I told you that the numbers were wrong, but it would start the conversation. In response, I got this spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is totally wrong. It's completely miscalculated and doesn't apply the right laws. Okay. This is the concern with the funding of the charter school, that there's not enough money there. Okay. So that's where that ended. I did begin the discussions with the administration. Swan Meadows has several anomalies. If you look at the second sheet, it says IAC. That was in October of 23. It was an assessment of the school at Swan Meadows. You'll see the little highlighter here. The number starts at 0 and climbs to 100. 0 is a new school. 100 would be caved in. Okay? Presented to the Board of Education in April of 23 was a declaration that it is the worst school in the state. This was part of a slideshow that they presented. It was never accounted for. It was concerning to me. If you proceed to the next sheet, you see the one with the pink slips? Here they are trying to say that the per pupil amount of financing for Swan Meadows is $38,264. That seems a little on the high side. If you turn the page, you can see year by year the amount that Swan Meadows has been funded per pupil until we get to that $38,000, which happens to be the year that they said it was going to be a charter school. These numbers are all provided by the Maryland report card. You can look them up online. Swan Meadows has been subjected to benchmarks and reports. If you turn to the next page, at one point they were actually told that they are going to have to face monthly audits to come here with a checkbook. I don't think that is still the policy, but it's something that they were subjected to. Where am I? Okay. December 3rd, after I pointed out the numbers at the November meeting, December 3rd, the MSDE, made a ruling. It simply reinforced what they had always said. You take the total school budget divided by the number of students. You then subtract buybacks, negotiated payments, and whatnot. That is the school funding. There's been some concern. The next page here, you'll see a pink strip, that we should wait till the legislature creates a new law. They've been talking about that since 2005 with their first ruling. The courts and the MSDE have been loath to make a formula for funding the schools other than divide it and then subtract it. Let's see, where am I? There's been, okay, you should have this sheet. The superintendent had some concern about funding for the schools. And if we fund it according to the current law and the current funding formulas, the school is fully funded at around $800,000. Should write this stuff down. Am I out of time? 65 million is the current school budget to be divided by the population. Not the 55,000. There's 15,000 missing. You want me to stop now?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Go ahead and finish, Mike, if you're maybe real quick. We got a lot to digest after you leave.
Yes, there's a concern about whether or not the transportation funding is included in the charter school funding. Yes, it is. That was settled with Frederick Charter School versus Frederick County. That funding is to be included in the school budget. What am I here? On the last page, you should have a commensurate funding form. Based on the December 3rd ruling, the minimum amount, the absolute bottom line, is 75% of the school budget divided by the population that can be awarded to a charter school. The upper end will be 98%. That's the full funding per student minus 2% administrative fees. There's sufficient funds using the current law, current formulas, to fully fund Swan Meadows and have them open in September. I've asked that the board consider this at an open meeting and discuss it publicly. And that's what I'm going to do now. I realize
Certainly, we will certainly look at everything you have. Part of what we're waiting on at the moment is there's a couple of, I think you mentioned one tonight about the schools of 300 or less, how that would impact the blueprint. 350 and less. So we're waiting on some legislative decisions to be made in the next 2 months, which would have implications on our county a lot.
The current legislation, and the funding, everything is up in the air. Today, we have to go with the law that we have today. In the meantime, the Swan Meadows community is getting very frustrated as to which way the wind's going to blow and whether or not they should just give up and go home.
Well, we, certainly none of us would ever intend that to happen. And I can assure you that once, once the environment is cleared as to what's happening, if there are questions, I'm sure the superintendent and her staff will answer them. But it's hard to answer questions when you don't know what the question is going to be yet.
The forms to calculate the per student is available on the MSDE site under Charter Liaison Resources. You cannot get an accurate number because there's an interplay here as to what the charter school wishes to buy back or not buy back. And so the funding needs to be split that ways. But the basic funding is going to start out somewhere around 14 to 15,000, which is, if you look at that front sheet, a little bit twice of what's being offered.
Thank you. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you. Side note, I really do appreciate your funding for that you were discussing earlier. The funding you were discussing earlier with driver's ed and those things, I fully appreciate your position and the difficulties you have.
Well, again, we're hoping by June we'll know what our difficulties are. Now we're going to pay for them.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
Mike. Okay, now we'll go to the calendar. Dr. Wilson and Mr. Green.
Good evening again. At the February board meeting, we expressed our gratitude to the 22 individuals who served on the school calendar committee. They did include parents, community members, GCPS staff, union representatives, and a board member for their time and dedication. Based on community input, the 2025-26 school calendar committee has revised its original recommendation from a pre-Labor Day start to a post-Labor Day start. That would be September the 2nd, 2025, with the end date of June 4th, 2026, with the recommended changes. This change reflects strong community support, particularly due to conditions such as vacations, weather, employment decisions, and those concerns. We are requesting the board to approve this updated recommendation. Mr. Green is going to present some of the information from the 928 responses that we had on the calendar.
So potentially a record number of responses. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely in my time. Overwhelmingly, our parents were the ones that responded the most at 53%, almost 500 responses. The consensus for everyone was for a post-Labor Day start, and that was 73% of respondees. All generally were in favor of, overwhelmingly I should say, in favor of the non-holiday school closures for Autumn Glory, Thanksgiving, and Easter Monday. And it was very close, but in whether or not we should attend on Veterans Day, the response was to attend rather than have the day off. So our key themes, it was a strong preference for post-Labor Day start. One of the major reasons being vacations, another one being weather, and then also for employment considerations in the community. There were mixed opinions on virtual learning, but the ones that did comment specifically on that were more in favor of either continuing with virtual learning days or with having additional more virtual learning days than we did have. Um, There were different views on holiday closures. Some wanted fewer breaks, while others wanted the time off, understandably so. Um, There were a few suggestions to adjust the parent-teacher conferences to half-days instead of a full day off, as it is now. Request for additional built-in snow days and fewer early dismissals. And the support for keeping Veterans Day an instructional day to allow student participation in activities. I think one of the biggest comments on that front was for the parade in Oakland, the Veterans Parade.
One thing that I do want to just remind the board that one of the, our teachers work 7 additional days other than the students. So the parent conference is one of those 7. So if we had to break it into 2, then it would reduce a professional development day. Just want to remind you of that. So based on the community feedback, the school calendar committee recommends the academic calendar for 2025-26 as a post-Labor Day start, with the school closures for Autumn Glory Friday, Thanksgiving Monday, Easter Monday, Veteran Day remain as a instructional day for students. We believe these adjustments reflect the majority preference while maintaining a balance of academic schedule, and we seek the board for approval.
Superintendent McCartney, you have a recommendation?
Do, but I also, before I make a recommendation, do want to thank the committee for considering the community input as they were working on developing the calendar. Greatly appreciate that work. So my recommendation is to approve the proposed 25-26 school calendar as developed by the calendar committee and presented tonight and modified based on the feedback from the community.
So you are advocating for a post-Labor Day start?
My recommendation, I should have been clearer, thank you. My recommendation is the calendar presented tonight with a post-Labor Day start.
Superintendent's recommending that we approve the calendar tonight with a post-Labor Day start. I think it's September 2nd,
Yes.
2025. Is there a motion as such?
So moved.
So move it on.
Second. Second.
Second by Rodney. Can I have discussion? Questions, concerns?
The only point of contention, if you even want to use the word contention, is with the Veterans Day. I really believe that should be a day off. And I know the survey was really split on Veterans Day. Personally, just the number of people who've talked to me about it, I've only had one person, one-on-one, tell me that he was for having school that day. Yeah, I'm making a motion to amend to have that day off. Yes.
Have that day off. So motion on the floor to amend the motion that has been made to accept the calendar as presented to us with a post-Labor Day start. The amendment on the floor, it'll need to have a second, is to go to school on Veterans Day rather than have that day off. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Seconded for discussion. So now we can have discussion about Veterans Day first. We'll go back to the original discussion.
I think one of the considerations on Veterans Day, I'm sorry. One of the considerations on Veterans Day is the schools do a lot of activities honoring veterans. When the kids are off, there's no guarantee they're going to go to any parade or celebration for veterans. They're going to get that in the schools. So I think that's probably weighing on the committee's recommendation to have that as a school day. That's, again, it makes sense to me.
I would wonder how many students miss school on Veterans Day. If that number is up, I would be for having Veterans Day off, but I agree with Rodney that some students may not get that education about Veterans Day and the importance of it. Although I also understand, looking through the eyes of a veteran, that it's disrespectful. But if we want to teach the younger generation, it's I feel it's best to have them in school
Well,
on that day.
Could it be that we still have instruction on that, but just not on that day? Like days leading up to that or after, we could still highlight Veterans Day and still have that day off to honor the veterans. And as far as, there's no guarantee, of course, that people or the kids will be involved in the Veterans Day events, but that would totally be up to the parents. I would say if that day is off, that wouldn't be our responsibility anyway to get them involved in something. If that day is off.
I'm in the accident band and little community band, and we were invited over to Accident to perform at a Veterans Day celebration there on Veterans Day. The whole gymnasium was full of kids. There was speeches. It was a really emotional ceremony, I think, honoring veterans, and I really think they wouldn't have got that if they were off school that day. But yeah, of course,
Sure.
we need to recognize veterans and
Sure.
all they do. But the question is, do we need another day off from school? So,
I've said everything I think, so.
yeah, me too.
Discussion, anything else? Any other items discussion? I know this has been something that we have certainly grappled with over the last 3 years. Seems like it's been more of a situation that more and more people feel as though that day should be off as opposed to previous years that I've been on the board.
May I say something else?
You sure can.
I'd also want everyone to know that I respect their opinions as well. And I don't, so I just want everyone to know that.
Sure. I have mixed thoughts about it, quite frankly. And I am a 6-year veteran, so I look at it from a veteran's perspective as well. And I agree that we could do that any day we're having instruction. Doesn't have to necessarily be on that day. It could be any day. And I see honoring veterans as honoring the service those folks have done by taking a day off. But I do believe that we have some spectacular. I'm sure that we do Patriots Day, the 11th, September 11th. I assume we still do that in all the schools. I'm sure we do, or I'm sure we should. And we go to school that day, even though that's a pretty sacred day as well. And Veterans Day, we could certainly do the same sorts of things. So anyway, it is a
And
difficult
if I
situation.
may add,
Sure.
They're going to take it back anyway as soon as we have a snow day.
attending some of our Veterans Day programs in the schools. And you're right, they could be held on a different day, but holding it on that day and being with students who are bringing, we had a grandfather here today who goes by Pap, and seeing him honored at the school on that day with the grandchildren present and members of the community, I think it holds a little bit more fervor when it is on the day of Veterans Day. And not a veteran, but raised in a military family, and really just watching those brings a lot. And I'm not sure that some of those children would have that experience on another day. So I'm comfortable and like the sharing of opinions, but I needed to express that part of it.
Good discussion.
Any other discussion? Anyone? Okay, there is a motion and a second to.
We need a vote on the amendment.
That's what we're going to vote on.
Not the whole.
No, just the amendment. There's a motion and a second with an amendment on the floor to amend the calendar proposal that is currently on the floor as well. So I'll ask each of you to vote yea or nay on the amendment to go to school on Veterans Day. All those in favor of the amendment going to school on Veterans Day signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
It
Why,
is
would you restate that? What are we voting on? You
the
said
amendment
the amendment was to
to
not go to
I'm
school.
sorry, I misspoke. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay,
let's
let's do that again.
start over again. We got I got too many things going on here. Okay, let's vote again. There's an amendment to not go to school on Veterans Day. All those in favor of that amendment, not going to school, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, signify with nay.
Nay.
It is 2-2.
Put you on the spot, Tom.
Oh, I've done this before, so it's not my first rodeo on doing this. I will say, I did want to say one other thing, because you brought up something I'd kind of forgotten about. I should never have forgotten about it. I went to my grandchildren's Veterans Day in Parkersburg when they were in, like, I think maybe the 4th grade, 3rd grade, and they asked all the veterans to stand up and come up with your grandchildren or your children, whichever. And it was a wonderful moment for your grandchildren to say, and I was in the Air National Guard. It wasn't like I was in Vietnam, in a foxhole somewhere. But for 6 years, I did faithfully go. And it did mean something that you were recognized in a school in something special. So I vote against the amendment. I think we should go to school. That being said, now we have an amendment on the floor to accept the committee's superintendent's recommendation that we have a post-Labor Day starting on September 2nd, 2025. So with that on the floor, and we have had a motion and a second, I will take a vote. All those.
Everybody said what happens.
I'm sorry. Told you we'd be out of here by.
Yeah.
Okay, it is on the floor, so we can have discussion. Discussion about the post-Labor Day start, because I did have a couple points about that too. I'm so glad you mentioned that. One was I talked to the superintendent. I said, one of those days, I understand why we have it as a day off, but we always use it, the Monday after Easter. I know, yeah. It can be made up. It's kind of like
It has to be in your calendar as a day off.
The other question that I discussed with the superintendent when we were doing the agenda was, I really think next year we should have this conversation and a vote in January, have the committee in December,
Absolutely.
have a vote in January so that parents know, families know, in January, this is what the next calendar is going to
I
be.
will make sure that's done.
You'll leave that in your notes?
That's in my transition day.
We have, Mr. Woods, thank you for bringing both of those up. And Dr. Wilderson had schooled me well on the day after Easter that we had to have it in the calendar. And yes, we have it on her tickler file to call her to come in and do the calendar a month or two earlier.
Any other comments or questions, concerns, anyone? Okay, let me see if I get through this right this time. We have a motion on the floor to accept the committee's recommendation and the superintendent's recommendation that we have a post-Labor Day start beginning on September 2nd, 2025. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay? Is it 3-1? Do we have one nay? Just you? Yeah. I thought. Okay, and then that is the recommendation and approval by the board. We will start post-Labor Day, September 2nd.
One thing to clarify, I just want to make sure the Veterans Day is a full day of school.
As proposed.
Thank you.
Okay. Our student member could not be here tonight. She was involved in some meetings downstate, but she did give us her report, so I'll do Cadence's report for her. Geico won this weekend's first Chesapeake Pasadena qualifier, while also walking away with the Engineering Inspirational Award. So that's a tremendous start for those kids. Spring sports has begun with games beginning the end of the month. 4 students from FFA are advancing to the Maryland State FFA Convention this summer, and students across the county raised over $36,000 for the Cool Schools Dunk, which is an amazing amount of money. GCASC rescheduled February, moved to March at Hickory. Workshop, Journey of the Bill and Robert's Rules of Order. I probably should have gone to that. There will be a guest speaker. Service project collected coloring books and utensils to be donated to the WVU Children's Hospital. Girls State report. Cambria reported on Girls State. Calendar update. Kate spoke at the 25-26 GCPS calendar committee meeting and filled in mental survey. There was a How to Be an Officer night on March 19th at 7 p.m., or there will be rather. Executive board meeting at 6 p.m. County leadership elections April 7th. Voting on new county leadership. There's a donation drive collecting donations for hygiene kits for the Dove Center. At Southern High School grades 7 through 8, there's a St. Patrick's Day fundraiser, a nacho bar for 8th grade to celebrate the first 100 days, and working on teacher appreciation for the 7th and 8th grade. At Southern High School 9 through 12, they had a blood drive scheduled for March 3rd, a vaping prevention grant. Several student council members visited Yacht Glades in Broadford February 25th alongside a guest speaker to educate students on the importance of not vaping. Vaping prevention initiatives, continued discussions on additional preventive measures. Spring event, there was exploring possibilities for student council, elections, the upcoming elections for student council, teacher appreciation, a special luncheon to recognize, thank teachers, final blood drive, organizing the last blood drive, which will be in April, and students participated and rallied support for the spread of Word Inclusion Day. At Northern High School, World Inclusion Day. Raise money to purchase items for the WVU Children's Hospital, selecting toys, books, and personal items. Kick off Q3 fundraiser with proceeds going to every student with a treat during lunch. On Wednesday, students were blue to spread the word. Choose to Include Day. Planning to underway for spring pro play activities, including talent show, using grant funds. At Northern High School, they finished their wooden rose sales for Valentine's Day, working on Dog Pound social media page for fan and cheering section. Ordered 3 vape detectors with the vaping grant. Currently working on ways to spend the remainder of the money. Planning on a blood drive April 29th, working on a field day for color run plans, assisted PBIS with a bake sale, planning next year's officer elections, and planning graduation gifts for seniors. SMOB initiative, student member of the board initiatives, attending the MASC convention to represent Garrett County, school visits, divisional caucus meetings to connect with students in our region, and lastly, attended the Northern High School JROTC Cash Bash. It was a great turnout, and students from Northern High School and Southern High School are competing in the state bocce tournament on 3/11, which I guess is today.
Yes.
Those are the reports from Cadence, and once again, downstate tonight. Okay, Superintendent, let's do board updates first. Are there any updates anyone has that they want to talk about?
I went to Southern High School. They had a speaker about a vape presentation that was done. I was a little disappointed in the amount of parents that didn't come, just because it's such a huge issue within the school system. A lot of vaping goes on, and the speaker was really, really good. And I just feel that there's strength in numbers, and if we're going to try and combat this problem with vaping, we need the parents to come out and support that and be educated. So.
Okay, anything else? Anybody? All right, Superintendent McCartney.
Yes, I have a couple reminders. Testing is underway. Science testing is underway for grades 5 and 8 students. Our testing window is March the 3rd through the 21st. And I would ask members of the public to refer to their local school calendars for specific dates at their school. Spring administration of MCAP for English Language Arts grades 3 and 8 and 10, and MCAP for mathematics, algebra, geometry will occur April the 7th through May the 30th of 2025. We certainly encourage great attendance on those days so that our students can represent their learning well. Then I want to share a couple statistics that have come out lately. The Maryland School Survey analysis was recently released by MSDE, and I am proud to say that Garrett County Public Schools outperformed the other districts in Maryland in both favorable student and educator perceptions of their schools. The statewide average for students was 5.0 out of 10 points, with Garrett County Public Schools achieving 6.6 out of 10 points. The statewide average for educators is 6.6 out of 10, with Garrett County Public Schools achieving an 8.5 out of 10. And I'm very proud that Garrett County Public Schools, as we all should be proud, leads Maryland in both student and educator perceptions, scoring well above the state average in this Maryland School Survey. This directly reflects our dedicated staff, our engaged students, and our strong school community. And I want to thank everyone for making GCPS such a great place to both learn and work. The other thing that I would like to point out to our public and our parents and students, it is with great pleasure that I announce that Garrett County Public Schools is among 4 school systems across Maryland to achieve an impressive 95% graduation rate for the 23-24 school year. The newly released data highlights an increase of 4.3 percentage points for GCPS and 1.8 percentage point in the state's overall 4-year graduation rate compared to the prior year. So thank you to all of the staff and all of the community for your continued appreciation and support of this excellent school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Great news. Anything, anyone add for the good of the order? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So moved. Don, you were late. Second, real late. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.